The Red Skull. Because of goofy continuity, this character in his first appearance is actually a completely different person than the Red Skull you probably know, Johann Schmidt. So I want to focus on the first appearance version of this character and show how much of a menace to society bro was. We're going to start this off with Captain America Comics number 1. After being escorted home by Steve Rogers and Bucky, Major Croy sits down to read a nice little book. At the same time, the Red Skull sneaks in through a window and gets him on the ground before he can do anything about it. He forces him to look into his nice big green eyes, and the Major dies. The police show up with Steve and Bucky to investigate what went down, but just outside the window, the Red Skull watches them, plotting his next move. Steve and Bucky sneak away past a funny mustache guy into another room to suit up and get ready to track down the Red Skull. But Steve decides to leave Bucky behind and go at it alone. But then Bucky turns around and decides he's going out there anyway. In the Red Skull's secret lair, he orders his henchmen to rob banks while he deals with military officials as part of his plot to overthrow the government. By accident, Bucky comes across the secret lair, and while leaning on it, the parapet breaks and he falls right in front of Red Skull's henchmen. A couple punches and kicks aren't enough to take down the thug, and he socks Bucky right in the jaw. Red Skull decides to take him as a hostage, but suddenly there's a knock at the door. Steve busts right through the door, knocking a few guys down, and punches one of them so hard the rigor mortis instantly sets in. Because they weren't paying enough attention though, Red Skull slips out the back way through a secret entrance. And back at the army camp, Mr. Maxon of the Maxon Aircraft Corporation stops by to watch his newest plane during its tests. Almost as soon as it takes off, it catches on fire and shrieks downward, crashing on the field. Later that night, after all the commotion, General Maynard goes home after saying goodnight to Mr. Maxon, and to the general's surprise, something came in the mail for him. He opens it up and it's these nuts. Okay, it's really a note from Red Skull threatening his life, but he doesn't take it seriously, thinking it's a prank, and throws it in the fireplace. But suddenly, a shadow on the wall appears, and a voice from behind him calls out. General Maynard turns around and sees these. Red Skull wrings his neck and forces the general to look in his eyes like the last victim. Crosses another name off his list, and with only 3 more to go, Captain America and Bucky, and I have no clue what the 5th one is. All the noise attracted General Maynard's wife, and she comes through with the gat, but stupidly drops the gun to check on her husband right in front of the dude who she knows killed him. Then she tries to size him up, but bro is not having it and smacks her over a table. But Red Skull hears something outside of the door. Someone else who heard all the noise, none other than, and like clockwork, bro punches him into the next panel, but Skull immediately gets back up. And look, even Cap is surprised by that. This time his tackling finisher doesn't work, and he gets rocked with a chair, knocking him out. Bucky watches Red Skull hug and caress Cap from the window, and since he couldn't handle the cringe, he literally kicks his butt. And right before Red Skull can get his hug in on Bucky, Cap just shatters dude's head. But don't worry, he isn't dead, since it was just a mask. And you'll never guess who's behind the mask. None other than it's George Maxon, the plane guy. And Bucky finds a syringe, and Cap explains that the whole looking into Red Skull's eyes gag was really just a way to scare his victims while he snuck them with a dirty needle. Maxon tries to get his fent back, but Bucky overpowers him, and he ends up sticking himself with a fatal dose. After Cap and Bucky leave, the FBI guys show up, and they find a note in Maxon's pocket that lays out his motivation for all the Red Skull stuff. It says, "When America is within the fold of the Greater Reich, the post of Minister of All American Industry shall be the reward of your excellent spy work. Signed by none other than..." So it seems that this is the end of the first appearance of Red Skull, but that isn't true. We have to take a look at one more story from Captain America Comics number 3. The opening page for this story is wild. Right off the bat, we see Cap and Bucky being hanged. But don't worry, cause they're walking down these steps behind Red Skull. We'll end up seeing how Cap and Bucky are hanged, but also at the same time aren't. We start off with the Red Skull waking up in a room that I have no clue where or what it's supposed to be. It turns out he survived being stuck with his own poison, and now will come back to haunt America even harder. And I've gotta say, Kirby really stepped up the art on this issue. This panel right here looks really iconic, and it introduces the Skull's new form of killing. He calls it the Touch of Death. At a military conference in Hartley Hall, the plans for a new power drill are discussed and entrusted into the hands of Major Douglas. When he gets home and is getting ready to go to bed, the Red Skull shows up, and he really wants those plans. He pushes him before Douglas can get off a shot on him, and feeling real tough, the Major goes in for a right hook, but as soon as he makes contact, he just straight up dies. Skull picks the plans up and books out of there before Steve and Bucky show up to find Douglas dead. Bucky picks up a box and turns it over, making a fake Red Skull head roll out, confirming to both of them that the Red Menace is back. After suiting up, they get ambushed in an alley by some Germans, but they take them out with no trouble, and Cap hits the last guy with a talk. The thug snitches on Red Skull, and the duo go back on the hunt for him, while he reads some newspapers and reveals that his ambitions go beyond being accepted by the funny mustache guy. And he looks out on his new power drill, and it looks real crazy, especially when it smashes through a subway station, wreaking havoc across the entire city and killing a bunch of people. And it even crashes a baseball game like on some Bane and Dark Knight Rises stuff. But the crowd cheers when they see Captain America and Bucky show up to put an end to the chaos. They jump onto the power drill, catching it just in time, and make their way up to the control room, and the Skull orders his thugs to fire at them, but Cap's shield protects both of them. The cops show up and start blasting on the machine, so Cap and Bucky have to dip before they get hit. The Skull retreats, and so do Cap and Bucky. A little gang meets up with each other, and the boss pulls out Captain America and Bucky costumes, and two of his henchmen put them on. This is all for them to make a little money scamming kids and fans out of dimes, but the real Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes show up and rage bait them. Steve socks his impersonator in the face, and Bucky, I'm not sure what Bucky's trying to do here.
Come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth.
All the kids saw what went down and want all their money back, and backstage the fakers are met by the Red Skull. They think they can scam him for a dime too, but obviously he isn't having it and offends the manager, who can't help but tries to knock him out, which kills him. And thinking they're the real Cap and Bucky, Skull has them tied up and brought to a gallows. Red Skull doesn't believe them when they say they're only imposters, and so they get executed. That's a tragedy right there, bro. The real Captain America and Bucky show up to finally put an end to the Red Skull, and like most times, the henchmen are easy to get past. Bucky gets a one-on-one with the Skull himself, and since every time someone touches him they die, the Skull welcomes a hook from Bucky. The punch lands and Bucky doesn't die. The whole touch of death thing was actually just victims being shocked to death by electrical wiring within the Skull's clothing, and Bucky put on insulated gloves to sock him in the face. But like last time, the Skull uses the classic chair to the head finisher and runs away back to the power drill. He lights up a bomb and throws it at Cap, but he presses the right bumper to throw it back, blowing up the whole drill. Luckily, they made it out alive, but according to the papers, the Skull was put to an end, and so that ends the story of George Maxson, the first appearance version of the Red Skull. Bye.